Welcome to Brian's Action Figure Reviews. Today we've got a brand new show starting, Wrestle Talk with Brian, me, Tubbs and Rich NG, who were previous guests on my pop culture interviews. Basically the way this show is going to work is we are going to pick a match from wrestling's great past, watch it, and then we're going to come on and chat about it on the show. So if you would like to see what we thought of Bret Hart versus Stone Cold Steve Austin from Wrestlemania 13, here we go. Welcome everyone to a new show on Brian's Action Figure Reviews. Today I'm here with my co-hosts Rich NG and Stephen Tubbs Tuberty, and we're going to talk about some wrestling today. So if you don't like that stuff, fuck off. Yeah, straight to the point. What we're going to be doing on this show is going back over some classic matches because the current stuff isn't the best at the moment. So this week's episode is going to be about Stone Cold Steve Austin versus Bret Hart submission match, WrestleMania 13. We've all watched it and we're all going to have a chat. So sit down, eat some popcorn or not, and listen to us talk shit.
All right.
So, who were your favourites going into it?
Bret all the way.
Oh, I was. See, and O'Regan knows this. I was. But going into it, I was a HBK fan over Bret Hart, so I was Austin all the way. Like on this one, like even the build, it was just the build. Like if you had, it was the build from like Michaels, and then it was the build onto Austin, and Bret had really started to show the frustration coming out of him. And to be fair, I really dug that because I think at that time Bret's kind of super nice guy image was starting to kind of like teeter with the fans, and I thought like it was giving him a bit of an edge. And Austin, I think at the time, was the perfect opponent to really kind of give him a second renaissance kind of a thing.
Rich?
Bret Hart all the way. From like a wee kid, you know, I mean, like, I'll still argue today, this very day, that he is one of still the all-time greatest wrestlers from like what he did. Like, I was speaking to one of my pals and we're talking about like his moveset that he chooses. No one does it these days. When was the last time you seen that Russian leg sweep?
No, yeah.
You know what I mean?
Very true.
Just something like that. I mean, always loved Bret Hart going in. And the thing is, like, don't get me wrong, I loved Austin, but I hated him. Was never a fan of the Hollywood Blondes. I hated the Ringmaster because I was a Savvy Vega fan. So when he had that feud, I was like, "Who's this guy? Get him gone!" So no, this was never a fan of him at that time. So I'm not going to be one of these guys who be like, "Yeah, I've been a fan from day one. I hated him," and he was going up against Bret, and it was always that line was that you call yourself a hitman, more like put an S because you're more like the shit man. I'm like, oh, you didn't, dude. Like, fuck you. So Bret all the way.
Like, it's an interesting one, isn't it? Because you have Austin coming to his peak and you have Hitman coming off his peak. So it's a really good fucking clash. Like, same as you, Rich, I used to fucking adore the Hitman growing up. And then seeing him, like, go totally against his ways and be calling the fans assholes and everything. Because that was the time he was, like, giving shit to the American fans, and all the Canadian fans loved him. It was really straight.
I mean, it was this feud that birthed that whole kind of, like, you know, that whole, like, second degree Hart Foundation run. You know, because it did. Even deep diving into this match, like, because all three of us rewatched it, and I think the only match that ever kind of similarized it with how, like, a face went into a match and a heel went into a match and it completely flipped on its head by the end of it was Hogan and The Rock.
Yeah.
From it was Mania 18, it was kind of very similar, like, do you know what I mean? But this one really did kind of like double flip the heel face dynamic, like. By the end.
You see, like, when Bret Hart comes down, does his usual entrance and that, but you see him when he leaves the ring afterwards, he's kind of like, "Fuck you" to the crowd, and it's like,
yes, yeah, I mean,
what the fuck kind of thing.
He was complete and utter, and what I did was I just loved that whole thing of, like, you know, he comes in, it's the Hitman, you know, it's this intense, I'm here to fight kind of guy, I'm here to, you know, work. And even from the get-go, like, I mean, the thing I loved about this match was, it was like, even when the two of them were standing in the ring, Austin's in one corner and Hitman gets in, like, he does the whole sunglasses thing, gives it to the kid, you know, the old school Bret Hart stuff. But then when he gets in the ring, like he's pacing towards Austin, he doesn't stop once, and then Austin just charges him like, and it's off to the races from there.
I mean, it was a very quick start of a match. Like, that's one thing I forgot about, because I always forget how it starts off, but like you always remember how that match ended because it was such an iconic moment in wrestling. But like I just kind of, you see him kind of marching and Stone Cold just goes for it. I was like, fuck. It's all go from the second. Like the pacing on that match was like just superb. It didn't like drag at all. It just kind of went. It was perfectly paced.
It was non-stop. Like I had forgotten, like like you were saying about the Russian leg sweep and all the different moves. I'd forgotten how much of a brawler Hitman could be as well. Like he proper ripped into Austin, like, and the whole fighting through the crowd and everything, like.
But that's the thing about it, about the Hitman, was like for a wrestler that like legitimately like very rarely hurt someone. He always looked like he was killing you. Like his punches were stiff as fuck. They weren't, but they looked like they were. You know, and that's like going back to this match. When, like as I said, I'm a huge Austin fan. I was more HBK back in the day, but there's one thing I always said about Bret Hart was that like he was the excellence of execution for a reason. You know, that moniker stood for something. You know, and to see and to just look, even to deep dive into this match and just kind of just remember how technically good he was. Like,
but you see some classics, like the classics like Undertaker. He openly said, I can't remember what I seen information, but I read it or I seen it, but he was going that Bret Hart was one of his favorite people to wrestle because he allowed the Taker to do different things and guarantee a good show. Like that's the one thing you got to admit. Like Bret speak up to this time, like how many matches were actually poor, and that was because of him. I can't think of that many.
No, I remember that Taker interview. All right. He was saying like Bret could work with the big men really, really well. And I remember like a match with Scott Hall at I think '93 Royal Rumble where he was Razor Ramon like and Bret Hart. You could really tell how he could work with different sized people, and of course with HBK as well in those epic matches they had. Like,
but even as you mentioned HBK, like the thing I loved about this match was like like following, because let's be honest, watching this match and listening to the commentary. And just seeing the story progression that like of the build up into the match, and remembering it all, even the commentary is kind of like at like 2 or 3 points mentions like Bret Hart is trying to shake off the loss of last year's WrestleMania 12 when he lost to Shawn Michaels, and then himself and Shawn Michaels had been feuding relatively up towards this feud with Austin before the injury. Do you know what I mean? It's been tagged as like who knows if it was real or not. So even the storytelling aspect of the match was fantastic. Like,
what I loved as well about the commentary was I'd forgotten how fucking class Vince McMahon was in commentary. He just sells everything so well. Like, and how much
the thing that I knew about the commentary was they kept going, "It's I quit," and I'm like, "It's not an I quit match."
Yeah, I spotted that.
And I looked at myself, was there an actual I quit match at that time? And I was thinking, no, it's a submission match. Am I going? But they kept going like it's the first person to say I quit, and I'm like, but it's not an I quit match, and that's what kind of infuriated me about the commentary at the start. But they kind of lost that afterwards because they were kind of going about it's when Stone Cold kind of threw, I think it was Bret into the crowd, or was it Bret threw Stone Cold into the crowd, and they actually
Austin put him in the crowd.
Yeah. You see him hit the guy in the jacket when he goes flying over, and I'm like, what's the commentary?
Did you? I don't know if you spotted this, Rich or Brian. Did you spot? When they're doing the suplex spot by the barricade and Austin blocks it twice, and then he puts Bret down and kind of balls first on it, and he goes for the clothesline. Do you know when Bret flew over? Did you see his leg almost swipe Tony Atlas's face? No. He does this like shake move. Like I spotted it straight away. I was like, that's Tony Atlas.
The one thing I thought was great was when Austin went up to one of those like the sales guys who like sell snacks and like, drinks, and he grabbed the drink just next to it, and he's just like, "Thank you." And I'm like, that dude now has to go to like his boss and be like, "Well, it's on camera. Someone nicked the last beer. You can't take that from a wage." But you see Austin trying to like use that carrying thing as a weapon, but he's kind of like, it's on you kind of thing.
He's trying to put it off him. Did you see the part as well when they were in the crowd battling, and they were kind of on the step area. All I could say was JR was like, "Oh, and Bret Hart is going to town on Hitman." And then there's a pause, and he was like, "Bret Hart is going to town on Austin." And I was like, "Oh, you fucked that line up so bad." He totally caught it when he was fucking commentating, like. But no, it's just things like that, like, because normally, like, obviously you're both wrestling fans, and you've watched wrestling as long as I have now, and normally when fights go out of the ring and in through the crowd, they can be very hit and miss. Depending, because they can go on too long, or they just look like there's like like they're punch fests. But this one just looks snug, like, and even the audience just looked enthralled with the fact that these two guys were in the crowd with them. And it didn't go too long. It went a few minutes, but it didn't go over the time limits of most matches would. Like in WWE nowadays, like, even though that was WWF, but just in WWE now, when you see it going into the crowd, it's like Roman Reigns and Baron Corbin. It went on for like a half an hour.
Apples and oranges.
Solid, just crowd, and it can become daunting after a while. They brought it back to the ring, and then the stories just kept going. That's what I loved about this match for me personally. Was it was just storytelling to the highest point in wrestling. Like,
I think it's the type of match it was. You don't expect that to go into the crowd.
Yeah.
And I think that's like a big shock of a match going, okay, it's a submission match and you're taking it to the crowd. Like, what? Like, explain that. Like, what you do, try and like put like Stone Cold in the sharpshooter in the middle of the crowd, on the stairs, kind of like what you way to do out there. But I think it was like one of those things, like giving Stone Cold maybe the upper hand, because obviously the type of match that they're in, he is technically the weaker opponent.
Yeah.
For that type of match, it was like, given that part of like storytelling, like Stone Cold, you take Bret Hart out the ring, and you're beating him against things, kind of showing that kind of rebellion, kind of like, fuck you, like, I'm not following the rules, kind of.
Yeah, you're taking him out of his comfort zone straight away.
Yeah, it really works. It really works on like Stone Cold's favor, where like Bret Hart's more an in ring guy kind of thing. So he's really taking him out of his comfort zone big time there.
Yeah.
But what I loved as well, did you see when they went back to the ring, Austin himself actually managed to put on some really fucking good submissions. What was the one where he wrapped his leg around his head or something?
Yeah, his first one was really good.
No, go on, Rich.
I was going to say the first submission that he actually like Stone Cold put on, because I was the whole time when we were discussing about how doing this, and I was thinking to myself, like, and researching, being like, apart from, and I wouldn't even say it's a submission, maybe it's a sleeper, when he was doing the what was the $1 million the $1 million
dream.
Yeah, like when he used to do that as the ringmaster, I couldn't think of anything that Steve Austin actually did as a submission. So I was like, why would you accept this match? Do you know what I mean? Like, why would you accept this match? Like, you're against the best at this right now. But then you see him do, what was it, the Boston Crab?
Yes, yeah.
He did the Boston Crab as well. Like, he pulled that in, and his attempt at the sharpshooter, you've got to give him credit for that.
Yeah, it was pretty nice. Like, but the thing I liked about the dynamic of both, it was like you see Bret put on, like I think we can all agree that like Bret Hart's version of the sharpshooter, scorpion deadlock, whatever you want to call it, is the best version, because he sits so tight in it. You've seen The Rock do it. You even Sting used to kind of do it, but they always kind of stood up a bit. Bret's was always the most technically like secure one. It looked snug, it looked tight. Yeah, it looked like it hurt, But the thing I loved about this match in general was every time Bret put a submission hold on, it looked so applied. It looked so technically like strapped in. Austin's one, going back to what you said, Brian, about the one where he put the leg over the head, it like he didn't have it fully on, but he was still stretching Bret's neck out. It just looked like a brawler, like supplying a submission hold, not knowing how to do it correctly, but he's trying his best to fucking make this guy fucking submit. And I like that dynamic. One was crisp, one wasn't, and it just showed they're both characters, because Austin's like fucking brawler, nutcase kind of type character, and Bret is that like straight laced technician, like.
Like on the other end of the scale as well, Bret's fucking figure 4 at the ring post. Oh my god, that looks so fucking sore, man.
And how many times have you seen that move recreated now?
Yeah,
even to this day. I think Charlotte did it to Leo Shirai on NXT last week. It just So it's a spot that holds its time. You know what I mean? It stayed with it. But there were so many spots in the match, man, that I had forgotten. Like genuinely had forgotten. Like the one where it was like Austin threw Bret clean into the steps.
Yeah.
And then he took the steps out, like, do you know what I mean? And Bret was on the floor, and then Austin's waiting. He's giving him the fingers and deep dives off the top rope, cleans him out. And even with the chair shots, the thing I loved about these chair shots was, correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't think one chair shot connected with the head.
No, I don't think so either.
Even Austin swung a chair shot at Bret on the top rope and hit him like neck and shoulder.
Yeah, he went down like that kind of.
Yeah, so even back then when chair shots were like all they were doing was hitting each other on the head, this match had not one shot to the head. And even the bell shot, remember he swung it over the top rope?
Yeah.
Bret and Austin in their recent interview had basically said, like, he didn't even hit Austin with that. It's just they sold it so well. And this is what I mean about this match. In regards to storytelling, from the minute Austin's music hit to like the very end of that match, it was just constant story. I can't remember watching like in new WWE, like, do you know what I mean, the way it is now in the current state of the universe that it's in now. I can't remember a story being told like with this much precision. Do you know what I mean?
That's because
maybe at a push, Cole and Gargano, maybe at a push.
Yeah.
Maybe those, but you know, like main roster matches, like they just don't tell them like that anymore. I think this is why it was such a treat to go back and watch this. It was going to go, oh my god, this is why we all loved wrestling. This is fantastic.
Sometimes you need a reminder, like, don't you?
You do, very much so.
I thought it was funny, you know, when they were fighting outside the ring again, and it was like just before it explained Stone Cold's cut. You know, he kind of rams into the
barricade,
the barrier, and you just see like Stone Cold go down. You see this large guy sitting on the seat next to him, and he kind of and it got delayed, kind of topple over, and I was just in stitches. I was just like, he's kind of like bounced, and Stone Cold's and he's like, oh, actually, I fall down behind JR. And I was in stitches with that.
Actually, and going back to the commentary again, do you know what I loved about this was, do you know in WWE nowadays, you have commentators, you know, you have your Corey Graveses, you have your Michael Coles, and they flip-flap so much, like, do you know what I mean? 1 week Michael Cole's a heel, and Corey Graves is a heel, and but even looking back at this match, like Jerry Lawler was like ripping Bret Hart the entire match, and JR was all like, you know, like talking about how good the Hitman is, and even when he's frustration of the couple of weeks prior to the match, he's still, you know, the Hitman deep down, and then Vince is the moderator in the middle, keeping the balance of heel and face. I loved it, man. It's, like, as I said, it's just you look back at this and you're kind of going, Jesus Christ, even the commentary was, you know, had their set guys.
Like, I know what I said about Jerry Lawler as well. That often that when Bret was going down, he'd be like, ha, fuck you, kind of thing. Like,
because he
feuded with him. He feuded with Hart like the year before.
I was like, remember their feud back in the day was good. Remember, what was it like?
Kiss My Feet.
Kiss My Feet. And then when Bret won that, and that's where Kane, what was his first persona called? Was it the dentist or something?
Isaac Yankem. Yeah.
Yeah, that's where he came from after that. Because remember, that was a deep one where like Jerry started like taking the piss out of Bret's family and stuff. So it was good to see continuity after all those years that Jerry still hates Bret. Kind of things. I thought that was really good.
Did you see the shot of the girl, Rich, when Bret was really laying into Austin with the chair on the leg and everything, and the girl was kind of like holding her face like that, and Jerry Lawler turns to Jim Ross and goes, "Oh, she was probably told to cover her ugly face." I was like, "Oh my god, that's so fucking brutal." I think I'm like, Jesus Christ, oh, it's madness, man.
Oh, you did.
I think wasn't she like Bret's niece or something, or related to Bret or something?
Yes, because they showed Stu Hart shortly after, and then Jerry Lawler made another comment on that to say that, like, oh, Stu actually woke up for this one. I was going, he's such a good commentator, like when he's playing the heel, man. Well, back then he was anyway, like, you know.
Before he started perving on women at ringside. Puppies!
So, I mean, and even
in like the whole like show, you know, you've got a special guest referee, and there just wasn't really that much interaction for like Shamrock to be in the match. I get why he was in the match, you know, like like obviously WWE was like kind of like the world's strongest, the world's dangerous man. So obviously came from UFC and that, so obviously submission, like tapping people out and stuff or whatnot. But like, so he was kind of perfect for this match, but there wasn't really that much interaction till the very end, where like he got Bret to lay off Stone Cold, and it was almost like, what was the point of having him there? Like that was, to me, that's the one flaw of the match, was having him a part of it.
Because from what I was to say, I think I seen it recently. It was in an interview. I can't remember whose interview it was, but it was either Shamrock or was it Bret? But one of them, I remember it. But it said something on the lines of the reason Shamrock was supposed to be in that match was the ending with Bret, and Shamrock was supposed to build to a bigger feud with them. But I think Shamrock ended up leaving shortly after that as well, didn't he? Like, or was he around for longer than that?
That was before he signed full time, I think.
Oh no, that's what it was. The feud never panned out anyway, whatever happened. So I think that's why that was kind of positioned at the end. Which, I mean, if being honestly, like if I was to fantasy book that, I would have had, like, when Shamrock picked up the Hitman and, like threw him down and they had to stare off, like I would have had, like when Bret was walking out of the ring, to like when Shamrock turned around, and I would have had Bret go in with a chair and kill him, like, because he had already turned full blown heel. He would have looked like such a fucking asshole if he had done that. Like, it would have been fantastic.
I think, though, I like the subtlety, though, where he just went over and kicked Austin a few times. He's like, yeah, take that, you cunt.
And I did like that, like, at the start, Shamrock was kind of going like, hey, man, stop it, don't do that. And then Bret was like, fuck you, I'm going back doing it again.
Yeah, he just literally walked around him. Like,
that's what I mean. And
get out of my way.
He was kind of there, kind of going like, nah, fuck this fucker. Like, you know what I mean? He's going to take him away now, like, And it was really good, like. But I mean, looking back at the match after, like, seeing it, fresh for the first time after so long, like, what was one of your favourite spots in the whole match?
Oh, Jesus, put me on this. What was yours first? I think.
Do you want to go, Rich?
Okay, my favourite spot of the match has to be the push-up. The Austin in the sharpshooter, face covered in blood, the most iconic part of the whole entire match. They got used so much, and it wasn't the first time. No, it was when he properly extends that push-up in the sharpshooter, and you see like the pain in his face and the blood's like pouring down. That alone, that I would say that was one part of where the Austin kind of Stone Cold really kicked off. Like, that's where the crowd really got behind. That was the moment there, kind of thing. That was just amazing.
For me, I suppose I mentioned it earlier, but I'd say the ring post figure 4 leg lock was one of the most impressive fucking submissions, and it absolutely looked horrifyingly painful as well. Because I've got bad knees, so I know how that would probably feel. What about you, Tubbs?
There was a spot in it where it was they had just brawled outside, and Bret was, he was kicking the living piss out of Austin, and he was going out for the chairs and everything else, and just starts wailing on him. But then the spot that I really, really loved in the match was where Austin is on the ground and he's like, he's bleeding already, and he's like, and Bret is like wailing chairs and stuff, man, and he looks like he's out, and he gets up and he's in the corner, and Bret is fucking coming right over to him, taunting him, and he just kicks him square in the balls. And it's Bret's reaction, man. Bret just drops, like, and then Austin gets up and he just starts pounding on him. And for me, I think, no, it was the section where he was going to crush his leg in the chair, all that kind of stuff. And then Austin got up and hit him with the chair and was all that shenanigans, like. But it was just when he hit him in the balls, like, it completely flipped the dynamic of the match, because everyone thought Austin was more or less done for there, because he was bleeding and he'd already put him in the first sharpshooter and everything, And I just thought it was just nuts. Austin went nuts, and to be fair, it was kind of like shades of Austin 316 before 316, But as I agree with Rich, the most iconic moment in the entire match is definitely the push up with the blood, because that became one of the most famous images to this day. But it was just storytelling wise, where like the technician has like your man beaten down, he's working his leg, he's kicking his ass, and then Austin ends up throwing him chest first into the turnbuckle, which is a spot that no one does anymore, and it's one of the most brutal spots ever. How the Hitman has never hurt himself doing that move is ridiculous. But I just felt it's just, man, it's chest first, like it's just so crazy. And I mean, I used to wrestle before, so I tried that spot before one time, Rich, and never tried it again, my friend. It hurts like a son of a bitch, like. But no, it was just that spot for me because I felt for storytelling purposes, it kind of, because you'd think Austin's done and then he flips it, and then the match kind of, the pace keeps going another few minutes, and it was really cool, like. So that was for me, like I just loved the concept of this match, like, as you said, it's a street fight submission match.
So final thoughts from Bodie.
And like how high would you rate this match?
Oh, I'd give it
out.
Out of 10.
What we're rating now, is it a 5?
Yeah, we give it out of 10. Like, yeah, we rate it out of 10.
Fuck it, I'll go first. I'll give it a 9 anyway.
I'll back it up. I'm gonna give it a 9.5.
Woo!
Yeah, I give it a 9 as well, because me, O'Regan, me and you have talked about wrestling matches till the cows come home, and we always find spots in them and things that piss us off and things we don't like. But
wasn't a lot in that.
I'll be honest, there wasn't anything in this match that I could dislike. I just thought it was a perfect storytelling match.
So lads, that was our first episode in the can. What I'm going to do now, right, is if there's anyone, to all the people who are watching this, if you want to drop suggestions in the comments for us to watch something next week. Now, we're going to have a few ourselves, but we'll add those to our suggestions, and we'll have more. And as long as we can watch it, we'll watch it. Thanks for watching, guys. I hope you enjoyed that chat between myself, Tubbs, and Rich. If you would like to drop a comment on what match you would think would make a good discussion for next week or in the future, we're going to have these once a week. And yeah, so it can be from TNA, WWE, Ring of Honor, any of the major promotions, ECW, WCW, in any time. As long as it's something we can all watch together. And yeah, so leave a like, leave a comment, hit the notification bell, and subscribe. And thank you. Bye.